everybody, and good afternoon to this wonderful group of students. I'm Mr. Lanning, as the program says, and I've had a long life associated with the university school. I want to welcome all of you wonderful parents and friends, and I want to congratulate this your superb offspring, and I wish you a wonderful graduation and a wonderful day. Something happened to me a while ago that really made my day. About 15 years ago or so, I had a beautiful young lady in school, and her name then was Miss Mendelson. And today, I meet that beautiful young lady again, but she's Mrs. Phillips, and her daughter is in the graduating class. I love stuff like that. Now, it's wonderful for me to be invited back once a year to these wonderful affairs. I happen to be the world champion lover of the university school. It's the greatest school in the country, I think, and it has helped. I don't know how many friends the university school has in Pittsburgh, but it's many, many, many. I just want to leave one thought with this class. I suppose you're all glad you've made it. Is that right?
All right.
You're glad you've made it. But let me say this to you, young folks. You're not through with the university school. Oh yes, you're going to get your graduation diploma and all that, but I want you to remember that we care for you. We're still interested in you. You're going off to college next year. You might have a little problem in math that worries you, or a paper for history or English. Come back and see us. By all means, visit us during, especially your freshman year. Come back and talk to Mr. Grant, or Mr. Way, or Mr. Pollock, or Mrs. Hamilton, or Mrs. Gibson, or as a last resort, come back and talk to me, because I'm glad to see you. So we wish you a wonderful college career, but more than that, we wish you all a very wonderful life. That's all.
Yay.
Thank you, Mr. Lanning. Mr. Lanning still comes into the school occasionally. He has an office in the school, and he comes in to check on me to see if I'm doing it all right, and occasionally reminds me that I'm the first female head of the school. But I think he approves, to the point where he sends me these lovely flowers every year. Thank you very much. We are very honored to have all of you here today. Is this too loud? Am I getting an echo? How's that? Is that all right? You can hear me? Good. Okay. I may have to play with this a little bit. You are very special, all of you. All of the cheerleaders that are here for your students. But as you know, the most special people in your students' lives, as they've gone through this high school experience, are their teachers. And I am so pleased to introduce each one of them to you. I would like to tell you the whole history of all of them, you know, where they have been before coming to this school, how long they have been here. But I think if you can, after this part of the program, when we're having our refreshments, talk with each one of them. I think you will find such rich history behind their stories as to why they are here and how long they have been here. Let me introduce the teachers to you, and I will also mention those who are not here and cannot be here because of some other commitment that has come up. This is alphabetically, not tenure-wise. Mr. Charles Baer, who teaches math and science for us, is not here today. Miss Ann Davis, who teaches art, is not here. Mrs. Sherry Edmonds, who is our guidance counselor, our computer teacher, and our overseer of our study hall, is here. I want you to hold your applause till the end, but I do want you to meet Mrs. Edmonds. Where are you? There you are. Okay. Next on our list is Mr. William Grant, who teaches Spanish, Latin, U.S. history, all the social studies. Mr. William Grant. Okay. Mrs. Sarah Haber, who teaches Spanish and social studies. Where are you? Okay. Mrs. Patricia Hamilton is not here today. She has to gather her daughter up from the airport, who's coming in from Honolulu. Mrs. Hamilton teaches English literature and writing. Mrs. Patricia Minotti, there's her, teaches writing, reading, math, social studies. Mrs. Sharon McDermott teaches English and writing. Where's Sharon? Mrs. Sandra Mellon, who teaches our drama workshop, is not here. Dr. Anne Marie Morrissey, who teaches our French students, is not here. Mr. Wright Pollock, who teaches some of the social sciences and other things, is here. Mrs. Susan Ramaswamy, who teaches French and physics and math, is here. Mrs. Georgia Robinson, who teaches English and social science. Miss Nancy Sakatch, who teaches sciences and math. Nancy. Miss Loretta Stana, who teaches math and science. Mrs. Loretta Tronzo, who teaches math. Mr. James Ways, who teaches U.S. history and German, economics and problems of democracy. And Mr. John Wylam, who is not here, who teaches creative writing and English. And these are the persons who have made your students' lives here so valuable. And I know you know that, and I know they know it. I also want to introduce you to my husband, Dr. Samuel Gibson, who is the president of the university school, and occasionally I let him show up, and he is here today. Dr. Samuel Gibson. And my right hand, who shows up every day and has shown up every day for 23 years, has hardly ever missed a day, and I don't know how I would be in this school without her, Mrs. Norma Shipley. Her white orchid is from Mr. Lanning. She was Mr. Lanning's secretary for a while, and he's still calling her Normie. And Normie came to the school when she was 18. So, whoops,
I call her Normie Dear. And one of the best days of my life was the day I hired her in '67. And another great day that I had here was when I hired Mr. Grant.
Okay. Mr. Grant has been here for 37 years. I'll tell that to you on him. So you all know how old they all are now. Before we come to the most important part of the program, awarding the diplomas to these young people, we have a guest here, our musician who played at our 75th anniversary, who is going to play for us a piece entitled Somewhere Out There, the theme from An American Tale, and he's going to kind of set the tone for the awarding of the diplomas. Mr. Justin Brown. Thank you. That was very nice. Well, this is it, guys. Some of you look fancy. Some of you look quiet, hot. Oh, Andre took his coat off already. Come up here with your coat on Andre, for the video. I know you will. I'm going to do this alphabetically, except for one. I'm going to bump someone out of line, and it will just be for a reason, but I want to group a few people together. So those of you, poor Kim, whose last name begins with W, is going to have to sit here to the end of this, Kim. But I will do this alphabetically. For the most part. Does anyone need a program? If we get too hot, we can all go for a swim for a while. We'll take a break. Okay? If your last name begins with A, you're always first. Susan All. Come on up, Susan. I spent some time thinking about each one of these students the night before graduation, and I'd like to give you just a little glimpse of them. If I were to tell you all of the wonderful things about them, or all of the things that aren't so wonderful, we would be here a very long time. But let me just share with you some things that I have learned about Susan. Susan came to the university school from Hong Kong after having been in a public school in New Jersey for her junior year. Susan also has lived in Hawaii and will go to college there to the University of Honolulu. Susan is torn between being a social worker and an actress. She loves the theater and also has had some experience as a paraprofessional in an elementary school for mentally handicapped children. She taught them to read and write. Susan is a highly self-motivated student. I think one of her teachers described Susan so well. She bubbles over with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm to learn, to do well, to participate, and to make friends, and to be a good friend. My experience with Susan is that she is an excellent student and is personable and charming. She has endeared herself to all of us. And so, Susan All I present you with the high school diploma from the university school, and I congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Didn't want that, did you? Let me get this out of your way, okay?
I'll take it.
It has been a really great year, and I want to thank my parents who could not be here today. And many thanks to the Alls, the Littmans, and the Ledfords for treating me like I'm part of their family. And I want to thank my sister and Carson for putting up with me this year. And I want to thank all the teachers in this school. They have been really great. And my special thanks to Mrs. Tronzo, Mrs. Haber, and Mrs. Hamilton for all their fabulous work. The three of you were the best teachers I've ever had. And last but not least, I wish all the seniors graduating this year the best of luck, and I hope they find their pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Thank you.
Another A who is not here, we graduated this young man about 2 weeks ago. He had to go back to his country. You'll see his name on the list, Ahmed Mohammed Noor Nasser Abdullah. Ahmed is from the United Arab Emirates and will be coming back to Pittsburgh to go to college, but he had to go home early to his family. There's some illness in his family. Next on my list is Carrie All. Carrie? Hi, Carrie.
Is it signed?
What do I look? Yeah, right. You can have this one. Can't read what I have to say. Carrie has been at the university school all of her high school career. During this time, Carrie and I have become friends. It's always difficult to let our students go, but it's even more so when the student is truly a friend. Carrie and I have had our struggles, but throughout these 4 years, the Carrie I experienced grew from a somewhat scared teenager to a confident young woman. She also became a leader. During one of our meetings with our student council, an elected group of students, Carrie made a statement that brought our discussion about detention into focus. She's a good problem solver. She is a sensitive and caring person who will go that extra mile to help a friend in need at the expense of her own discomfort. All of us at the university school are so proud to be a part of Carrie's success. And Carrie Hall.
Okay.
Wrong one. This is it. That's not
Okay,
yours.
sorry.
Can't have two. Just one. I think that would be my deal.
Since I've been here the longest, I thought my comment should be the shortest. I'd like to thank my friends and my families and my teachers who had the time and patience which helped me graduate, and a special thanks to Mrs. Marnani. Thank you.
Meredith Bates. Meredith, the liberated woman. The feminine mystique. Pushing and stretching the boundaries to find her own niche. Meredith's quick and creative mind has enlivened our environment, has challenged her teachers and her peers. She is bold. I have watched Meredith temper that boldness with grace and sensitivity. Beneath this feisty surface beats the heart of a very caring and considerate person. Meredith has a finely tuned sense of justice, not just for herself, but for the wider world. Her experience this year in living in her own apartment in the wilds of Oakland, instead of commuting from the safe suburbs, has put her in touch with a different slice of life. I think this experience enabled Meredith to view the wider community from a different perspective, especially on Friday night. I believe that this experience was the catalyst that polished the dimension of self-discipline and responsibility that this young woman has developed. Meredith Ann Bates. I congratulate her.
I'll be brief. I just want to thank my mom and Billy for helping me through high school, and to thank the teachers for all their patience in getting me through. Thanks.
Will the Green Mountain Boys come up? All three of you. Come on, guys. I am getting out of order here, but I want you to meet these three young men who are all going to the same college together. I don't know if that college will ever be the same. But let me see. I have Mr. Van Zeg's out of order, so I have to find it.
To the bottom.
You will be the third from the bottom. You want to get that for me, Josh? This should be it. Voila. There's your name on it.
Good.
Okay, I'm going to do this in somewhat of an alphabetical order. We introduce you first to Kelton. No, I'm not. I'm going with Josh first. On the V. Here, yes, here we go. Out of my way. Okay, this is Josh. You grew up a lot since I first knew you, Josh. Josh is one of the Green Mountain Boys. Three of our students are going to the Green Mountain College in Vermont, and it will never be the same. This is a far cry from Israel, where Josh spent the summer of 1987. I asked Josh to keep a journal that summer, and he let me read it. The opening line read, "I have a girlfriend named Juliet. I think she's going to be the love of the summer." So much for Israel, right? There was much more substance to his journal. I especially valued the report of his experience on a kibbutz. And I quote, "I worked in the fields every morning from 5 in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning, removing rocks from the soil. All of Israel is full of rocks, and I got a great deal of satisfaction seeing a whole field cleared of rocks because you felt like you were helping the country get on its feet." Josh is going into one of the helping professions. His caring and sensitive nature will enable him to make a valuable contribution to humankind. This kind and gentle human being, Josh.
Thank you.
What'd I do with it, John? Uh-oh, we lost it. Here we are. This is Joshua Michael Van Zeg. I congratulate you.
I'd like to thank my family first of all, and I wish my father could be here to see this day. I'd like to thank my teachers. All of you, you know you are. You've helped me out a lot. And I'd like to thank my friends, because without them, it'd be hard to make it through this year. Thanks.
Who's good with the camera in the front row? Second row? Try and get me here. You get a picture of these Green Mountain guys. Okay, our second Green Mountain boy is Kelton Burgess. This is Kelton Burgess. The Fred Astaire of the University School is about to knock the socks off of Green Mountain. Kelton is one of the most spirited persons I have ever known. It's been a joy for me to know Kelton since he was a bright-eyed little boy in preschool, where I was the director. You have changed a lot. Kelton has developed into a fine young man with a variety of talents. I have not had the experience of witnessing such resiliency as this young man has displayed. His wonderful, exuberant spirit cannot be stifled. He will not stay down for the full count, and when he gets up, he does so with verve and good humor. He has become a successful student, and he's fine-tuning his character, his commitment to his education, and his open attitude about life is very unique. The most exciting thing that I've experienced in observing this young man grow into selfhood is that the essence of his being seems to be wonderment. He is still bright-eyed and wide-eyed, as he was when he was a child when I first met him. He seems to be in awe of the world around him. When I asked Kelton what he thought an education would do for him, I quote, "It will be the stepping stones across the stream of life."
I can't believe you said that. That was the biggest thing.
Just to give you some indication of Kelton's wonderful sense of humor. But I know he will cross that stream, and he will cross it in great style and with great success. Kelton Merrill Burgess. Congratulations.
I did it. Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, you had to stand up here the longest, Ted. This is Ted Dobkin, and he's the other Green Mountain boy.
Former Ted.
How fortunate they are to recruit him. Ted's teachers tell me that he is a superior student. He is conscientious, attentive, cooperative, precise, an overall achiever. Ted adds a positive presence. Some of these students, you're not going to recognize yourselves, are you, guys? Ted adds a positive presence to the classes with his mix of knowledge and good humor. He is refreshing. Ted is also a fine artist. The comments from the Saturday pre-college program at Carnegie Mellon indicate that Ted has a developing artistic talent along with sincere and conscientious work habits and a willingness to work hard. This has been our experience with Ted, willing and able, and I know he will be a successful college student. Theodore John Dobkin.
I don't know, I wouldn't have made it definitely without my family, no question, and my grandfather, who unfortunately isn't here. But just like Josh said, without my friends, it just wouldn't be. So thank you, Mrs. Gibson, and all my teachers, and thanks.
I can get all three of them together.
Dean, come on, guys. Get up here.
I'm gonna get some darts.
There you go.
All right. Okay. Photo session. Thank you. Okay, we're back to the alphabet. Carrie Fitzgerald. There, please. Hi.
Hi.
Carrie is a delightful young woman who is blessed with determination and fortitude. When she makes up her mind to do something, she will do it. She also holds tenaciously to an opinion after she's looked at the different angles of an issue. Carrie's positive attitude and her resiliency will put her in good stead for whatever she decides to do in a career path. Perhaps Carrie will pursue a career in communications. She's an excellent creative writer with a vivid imagination. Carrie is a bright and sensitive young woman with a lot of potential, and we are honored to be a part of her success in her high school career. Okay, Carrie Ann Fitzgerald. I congratulate you.
I just want to thank my mother and my father for being patient with me and sticking through my ups and downs so I could get to this graduation. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Gibson and my teachers for being patient with me and giving me the chance to prove myself.
McCall Frank. Getting right up with that hair up, folks. McCall came back from Israel last year after having spent her junior year at the American school in the high school in Israel. She came back to the university school as a bright, creative student and almost all grown up. She's now all grown up. McCall had been here in her sophomore year, and when she returned, we were so pleased to see that her writing skills had become so well polished. McCall is an excellent writer. She has a clear, straightforward style and can express herself through her writing, whether she is writing creatively or in an expository manner. One of her teachers says that she saves her papers as an example of good writing. A fine example of her writing is published in this year's literary magazine, which I brought along with me in case some of you want to take a look at it later. It's really one of the most creative pieces that I've seen come out of this group of young people in a long time. I think for McCall, there's a bestseller waiting to be produced in this lovely young woman. I congratulate you, McCall. This is McCall Elena Frank. Congratulations.
I'd basically like to thank my parents, my family for their support, and most of all, my parents for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to have this education. I love you, and I'd also like to thank my teachers for not being there just as teachers, but also as friends. Thank you.
Candace Goldberg. And Candace is the daughter of one of our former students. She is the one Mr. Lanning was referring to. She's as beautiful as her mother. Do you agree? What more could you say of a student than what one of her teachers said in the progress report? Candace is highly motivated, is self-managed, has essential skills to succeed, is accountable. Candace is an artist. She paints, sketches, draws, and produces art by using a computer. Candace is a sports enthusiast, tennis, lacrosse, and field hockey. She is an industrious, responsible, respectful, and pleasant student to teach. Candace possesses a great deal of self-discipline and is kind to her fellow students. It has been my experience with Candace that she is a very serious student. Her work for her education is a first priority in her life, although she has many other things that she gets involved with. Candace's experience at tennis camp at one point in her life not only led her to be an accomplished tennis player, but as she said in her essay for her college application, I realized the enjoyment of establishing a goal and constantly striving for it. And you have, Candace. Congratulations. Candace Jill Goldberg. There you go.
I basically don't know what to say. I'm great to have this in my hands right now. But I'd like to thank my family especially, and my friends, and the great teachers that I had. And Mrs. Gibson, I just want to tell you, I can't believe I made it without the tennis team.
We have another student that we graduated halfway through the year who is not here now. You see her name on our list, Lucy Lynn Guzzi, and another student, Aaron Hansen. Both of these students graduated halfway through the year. A young man by the name of Joseph V. Haranka II is not here today, but his colleague, the next young man on your list, is here, Nick Idukovich. Come on up, Nick. I know you're all worried after you've heard what I've said about the other students. Can you hear me? Okay? Yes, no? Nick is a seeker of knowledge, a deep thinker. Nick has a scientific mind with the ability to analyze a problem, look at all the variables, and come up with a workable solution. Along with his fine mind, Nick has a strong sense of justice and will take a stand on an issue with fervor and frankness. He is able to temper his strong opinions with references from his wealth of knowledge. Nick is a bright, responsible young man who is considerate of the feelings of others. I was impressed recently with Nick's sensitivity. We went to the Frick Nature Park on Earth Day to plant some hemlock trees, and Nick seemed to display almost a reverent attitude towards a hemlock that he helped to plant. But what came out of that was that Nick and I decided that we would meet at that hemlock tree 50 years from June the 1st at 9 o'clock in the evening in the year 2040. Right, Nick?
Yes.
We're going to be there. Nick will be there in person, and I will be there in spirit. You're a very special young man, Nick.
No, it's not.
It's not it. Okay, that's Joe's. Here we go.
There you go.
This is Nicholas Paul Idukovich. I congratulate you.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Lanning.
Okay.
Making the school possible.
Thank you.
And my parents, my friends.
Oh, yeah.
Parents and friends, they all have been good to me. And this diploma, it shows a lot. My years in high school have been very good to me.
Okay. Asaf Jaffe. Be all right. I never thought of Asaf as being bookends, you know, the ends that hold the books on the shelf together. But one of Asaf's teachers described him in this manner. She said, I have Asaf the first thing in the morning and the last period at the end of the day. He holds my day together. He makes my day. He is my bookends. Asaf also has learned and has grown to be open-ended, searching for new ideas and challenging the old. Asaf is a serious student. He sets and maintains very high standards for himself. I have watched Asaf grow right before my very eyes. His teachers have verified these surges of new life when I ask about Asaf's progress, not expecting to get a metaphor about bookends. My experience with Asaf is that he has held up the books, he has opened the books, he has tasted the words, and he has been greatly nourished. We are all very proud of you, Asaf. Asaf Jaffe.
I'd like to thank Miss Gibson for making the school possible. I'd like to thank all my teachers for teaching me, all my friends for being friends, and my parents for picking up the tab.
Very important part of this process. Nina Kratza. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right. If Nina ever runs for political office, I will campaign vigorously for her. Nina is a born leader, a charismatic leader with a rare quality, humility, and a wonderful sense of humor. One of her teachers summed up Nina this way: Nina is an intelligent, witty young woman with a vibrant personality. Nina is quick to grasp both the obvious and the underlying nuances of literature. She adds depth and humanity to all discussions. Nina expressed her sensitivity about humanity in her college essay. She said, "If I go into politics or film, I want to be able to change at least one person's attitude. Whether it's an issue of prejudice, pollution, or abortion, I want to make a contribution to enhance the quality of life in this world. And Nina will do so." This is Nina Catherine Kratza.
I'd just like to thank my family and friends for coming today, and my teachers for being so great, especially my mother, who this would not be possible. She paid for it and put up with me, which is amazing. And Mom, it is signed. So, thank you.
The Littman family is getting settled in, and I'd like to see, are they all here? Is everyone here? Because some of you are going to be a little late. Okay? So, Jody Littman. Almost got twins today. Hi.
Yep.
Here is a young woman who is a class act. Jody is a prime example of the enactment of the key word in the world of education, motivation. Volumes have been written about this elusive concept, motivation. There is an organization in Pittsburgh for motivational development. If Jody knows what makes Jody run and would write a book or create an organization or bottle it, she would make a major contribution to the world of education. My contention is that this ongoing, unstoppable motivation is the very essence of Jody, unique unto itself, not to be transferable or patented. The university school is a non-competitive learning environment, and we encourage each student to compete with themselves. Jody was challenged and stimulated by her wonderful teachers, and she presented herself with all A's throughout her entire high school career. Okay? Alongside of this outstanding accomplishment, Jody used her dramatic talents to help in the production of The Wizard of Oz, an appropriate involvement, at Falk School in her spare time. This among many other activities. Jody's theatrical talents have been recognized by Chatham College, where she has been awarded a theater scholarship. And I quote from the letter that they wrote to her: "The theater faculty were very impressed with your resume and your audition and your interview, and believe you will be an asset to our program at Chatham." Jody certainly has been an asset to the university school. What a class act. Okay. Jody K. Littman. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
everybody. Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to say that if my note cards are a bit annoying, I wrote the speech last night. So I had another speech, but my father thought it was dorky because it was too sentimental. So I rewrote it, and it's on note cards, so it may be a little bit annoying. Okay. I want to thank my family, my teachers, Mrs. Gibson, and my honored clergy for being here today. If I speak too long, feel free to leave or use the restroom. Okay? It seems my entire scholastic career has been spent searching to get a proper education. The schools that I attended were not suited for me or my needs until my 7th grade year. In my 7th grade year, I found a place where I truly belonged. My 7th and 8th grade years were spent being nurtured, educated, and generally cared for by the administration and teachers and staff of Falk School. Falk turned my life around. It gave me self-confidence that has carried me ever since. Unfortunately, Falk has only 8 grades, so I started my search again. After an aborted start at a parochial school, which will forever remain nameless, I was rescued by the indomitable, charming, and caring Gibby. I realize it may seem disrespectful to refer to your headmistress by a nickname, but it's done so only in affection. In my 3.5 years at the youth school, I've encountered many teachers who have made an impression on me, and I fully expect to influence me for the rest of my life. Ulysses S. William Grant, he is right there, made history seem alive and current instead of dead and dry. Ron Pollock, who's right there, erased the fear of every female has of science. Sarita Haber, right there, made Spanish a not-so-foreign language. Casey Stengel Ways, right there, helped me hit a grand slam home run with POD. Mario Andretti Wylam, is he here? No, okay. Graphically illustrated that poetry need not be boring. Albert Einstein Tronzo, right there, made math exciting, more exciting than the columns and numbers and letters. And Mary Travers McDermott, she's over there, helped me sing through chorus in an English course. Wilhelmina Shakespeare Robinson, right there, made a heavy literature fun. Mahatma Ramaswamy illustrated to me that one can remain a lady and still love math. Dr. Joyce Brothers Edmonds, where are you? Right there, bared my mind to help me select the perfect place and continue my education. And mostly a teacher that's not here today, Sarah Hertburn Hamilton, helped me in my love of literature and my ability to put my thoughts on paper and to portray emotions on stage. And I would like to thank all the teachers I didn't have because they've been great friends to me too. And Officers Trish and Norma always made sure I was at the right place at the right time. They also supplied me with millions of messages from my doting parents. I would also especially like to thank my doting parents. I don't know where they're over there somewhere. My beautiful, vivacious, caring, fun-filled, sensitive, admirable, loving mother. And my gorgeous, charming, creative, loving, strong, cool dude dad, along with my 2 beautiful sisters and completely supportive grandparents. Without my fantastic family, I doubt I could have come so far so comfortably. Lastly, I would like to thank myself, because I did a hell of a job. Thank you.
Okay. James McKibben. But I have to have a drink before I do this, James. James made a comment at one of our parent-teacher conferences that made all of the hard work that our teachers do worthwhile. Listen up, teachers. He said that this is the first year in his high school career that he's been led to think thoroughly about a subject, to think in depth. James joined the class of 1990 after we were underway this school year, and he made the transition to the university school with great charm and a sense of commitment. He seemed to be in his element. It's not an easy task to walk into this unique learning environment and to quickly make an adjustment to the personalized and individualized approach that we have to education. A student needs to be open to new ideas and a different approach. James has made us proud to be a part of his successful experience in completing his high school career. This is James Ellison McKibben.
I've got a lot of basic thanks to my parents with the cameras, and I got also special thanks to Mrs. Gibson, who gave me a second chance in my high school career. Since I only came halfway through this year, I have special thanks to Mr. Warren back there, or Mr. Waits, excuse me, because I'll never forget the time when Mrs. Gibson came up to me and said, "We have a great history teacher here," and I thought, another one of those history teachers with times and dates, but he taught me a lot more than just history. So I give special thanks to him. I give special thanks to these boys here and all of my other friends, and I give also special thanks to the Leggett family. Thank you very much.
You can tell by the students' reaction that they really didn't take James into their space. They accepted him so warmly, and he is such a friendly young man. Andrei Plotnikov. That's something special for you, Andre. Where'd that go?
A warm hug.
Oh, warm hug. Come over here. Before I present Andre with his diploma, I want to present him with something else. We don't give awards in this school. Everybody deserves awards. This is not a competitive place. But at the beginning of the school year, I do offer students a cash award if they are already smoking, if they stop smoking during the school year. And Andre stopped smoking at the end of February, and he has, within our school year, he has earned 84 days worth of a non-smoking award at $1.50 a day. So there's your check, Andre. All right. I haven't signed it. One of Andre's teachers described Andre well. He is an interested student. He is quiet until he has a question or comment. which he then states succinctly. It is my observation that this is a very intelligent young man who will make his mark in the intellectual community in a most creative way. His creativity extends to his artistic talents and his writing talents. His English teacher says of Andre, Andre is an avid reader, he writes quite well, he is at home in the world of ideas, and he has a clever, offbeat sense of humor. Andre's contribution to our literary magazine is indicative of his creative mind. Not just his writing, but some of the graphics. Andre, don't let the larger world of the University of Higher Education stifle your unique, inquisitive, creative thinking powers. Andre M. Plotnikov.
I have a lot to say. I want to thank my parents, my friends, and all my teachers. I feel a real big tear, so I'm going to go sit down.
Dave Shields. I tell you, Dave, when I got down near the end of the line last night, I was so tired I couldn't think of a thing to say about you. But what I thought of was an old aphorism, a friend in need is a friend indeed. This is Dave. He will go that extra mile to be helpful and kind. As a student, Dave is self-motivated and an attentive and cooperative student. According to his teachers, Dave's progress has been exceptional. Dave's passion is history. He recently took the Advanced Placement History exam, and before doing so, he had a few sessions with our wizard of history, Mr. Grant. It was an exciting exchange to observe these two walking encyclopedias of history. David is a seeker of knowledge and an articulate scholar. He has been such a pleasure to watch and to see how much he could grow, not stature-wise, but so many other ways in just this 1 year. I have really watched this young man soar, and we are very pleased to be part of this flight. David Larimer Shields, Jr.
Thank you for coming today, friends. And I'd like to thank my parents, my friends, God, everyone else. Thank you.
Tanya Sambari. Everyone's taller than I am. Here is a young woman who is full of surprises. Just when you think you have her all figured out, a new dimension appears. Tanya is serious, quiet, friendly, fun-loving, inquisitive, and determined to accomplish what she sets out to do. It has been my experience to learn that Tanya is an intelligent and witty young woman. Her teachers have described her as self-disciplined, responsible, enthusiastic, thoughtful, and a doer of crossword puzzles. Tanya's cheerful enthusiasm and her attitude of determination has added a special touch to the university school. It has been our gain and our pleasure and North Catholic's loss to have Tanya be a member of our 1990 graduating class. There's the Kleenex over there. I brought that. You have that box of Kleenex in that box? Tanya Lee Simbari.
Excuse me for being emotional. My family has a way of doing that to me.
There you go.
I just want to thank everybody for helping me get here. And the only thing that I don't think is fair is that there's not room on a diploma for my mother's name. I love you. Thank you.
3 years ago at graduation, we went through a whole box of Kleenex. I don't know what it was that year, but someone started to cry early on, and the whole was like dominoes. Everybody was crying. Thank you, Tanya, for sharing your joy with us. Vicki Violi. Hi. You're shorter than I am, aren't you? Vicki came to the university school last summer for a math course, and it was our good fortune that she decided to stay to complete her high school career with us. Fox Chapel's loss and our gain. Vicki's bubbly personality, along with her determined effort to be a successful student, has added so much to our learning environment. Vicki has a maturity and a seriousness of purpose beneath this bubbly exterior that is beyond her years. She is a warm and caring person who is well liked by her teachers as well as her peers. Vicki has a positive attitude toward her future and is ready to pursue new goals. We are so pleased to have been a part of your success, Vicki. This is Victoria L. Violi.
I just want to thank my family, especially my mom and dad, and all my friends for making this year great. Thanks.
Last but not least, Kim Weinstein. Here is a young woman with a keen intellect. Can't believe that. She's quick to grasp an idea which is new to her and has an insightful way of solving problems. She is a very articulate young woman who can express herself beautifully in both the spoken word and the written word. One of her teachers said that some of Kim's essays are the finest she has read from a high school student. I also learned from this teacher that Kim has a discerning mind and appreciates fine literature. Another one of Kim's teachers said that Kim feels deeply about global concerns, articulates her views maturely, and is sensitive to the world around her. And that has been my experience with Kim. This is, let me get the middle name, Kim Michelle Weinstein.
First of all, I'd like to thank my parents, my mother for putting up with me for the past 4 years, because I know it hasn't been easy, and my father for financially supporting me and giving me this opportunity of such a good education, and agreeing to pay for many, many years to come. At least 4. I'd like to thank Ms. Gibson and my teachers for putting up with me and for being my friends, and I'd like to thank my friends. Thanks.
Another parent-student relationship that I very badly omitted. I just met today Miss Littman, but in World War II or somewhere back in there, I taught her father. Not at the university school, but when I was teaching aviation cadets in World War II. So, Mr. Littman, I'm glad to meet your daughter for the first time, and I want to see you again.
About a week ago, Ella said to me, I'd like for you to make a few small remarks at the end of graduation. So I have my commission to make a small amount of words, and I thought I would make them about smallness. If any of you missed seeing the book that came out about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer now, entitled Small is Beautiful, then by all means go to the bookstore and pick up the paperback and read it. Small is Beautiful is one of the significant books of this century, written by E.F. Schumacher from Great Britain. It helps us to see that contrary to the impression that large is better and large is more efficient and similar kinds of thoughts, that actually smallness oftentimes is the most appropriate. If any of you read the entertainment section of the New York Times, you may have wandered way back to about page 20 last week and discovered an article by the architectural critic of all things in the New York Times, Paul Goldberger, who made one of the most profound pieces of reporting on education that has appeared in the New York Times this year. Paul Goldberg, if you've not read his stuff, is a very perceptive architectural critic and historian. But in this, he was dealing with a competition for the design of new schools in New York City. And let me read a couple of sentences of what he had to say. That schools are too big and that making them smaller is more important than doing anything else to them. Forget the fancy architecture. What children need most of all is institutions that are small and manageable, places of no more than a couple of hundred people where everyone knows everyone else. This, he says, will bring better results. And he reports that not only on his own study, but he reports that as the conclusions of a growing number of people in education, and I would second the motion. You, it seems to me, the students and the teachers here, all, and those of you who have enabled and supported them in the process, are testimony to the truth that finding a small enough environment makes it possible for the more personal and the more humane to come to the forefront, makes it possible for young people to develop self-confidence, makes it possible for everyone to begin to not only know intellectually, but to feel that they count, that everyone is important. That's the first point. The second one is somewhat different, but again it deals with smallness, and that is that our world is becoming smaller by the day. In a publication that we get at the school called Independent School, the national public opinion expert Lou Harris, and most of you have seen some of the polls that his company does, talked about the year 2001. That's only a little over 10 years from now. And what kind of world will it be that our students, these young people, will be entering into? We have been up to this time in the United States largely, even though you may have traveled to other parts of the world, we have been largely isolated and ignorant. Let's admit it, ignorant about the rest of the world. And that will no longer do. And Lou Harris makes the point very strongly. These young people who are today receiving these diplomas will have to live in a world that is global. And they will have to have an intimate knowledge of the world outside the United States of America. And if you don't have it yet, and many of you may not, then by all means make that one of your first orders of priority. It used to be only a sign of the cultured and educated person that they knew something about the rest of the world. But now, increasingly, it's a requisite for survival. I mean that in terms of economics, in terms of politics, culturally, in every other way. We are no longer the dominant power and force in the world as much as many of us might like that to be. Just as we have been observing the fantastic changes of the last 12 months in this world of ours, and the changes that have taken place in Eastern Europe and Russia, and even in a subversive way in China, it's been changing for us too. If Russia is no longer a dominant force in the world, increasingly we will see that no longer are we. And we need to adjust to that fact. And one of the ways of adjusting is to know something about the world in which we live, and to be able not to be illiterate about geography, to be non-understanding about cross-cultural relationships and differences. We need to take cognizance of the fact that our world is smaller. And lastly, again dealing with smallness and a totally different subject, I would say to the students who are graduating, oftentimes you will hear us, or you've heard your teachers put the challenge that's to you is to make the big success, to make something big of yourself, or to accomplish something big. And that is true. Those challenges are there, and many of you will meet those challenges successfully. But you know, it really gets down to the fact that what you do in small ways both determines and shows your character and your contribution. Just as in class, I hope you have learned, it's not just whether you can cram enough in the last night to pass an exam, that kind of high point of demand, but it's what you do daily that really stays with you and determines whether you're going to do well and understand well that course before you. Some of you, some of us older people who, especially if we lived through the Depression period in the history, which is ancient history for you, I know, may be as astounded as I have been in the last few years to watch our students and our offspring taking pennies and throwing them on the street, literally, to simply get rid of them. Pennies are so worthless to most of us now that they no longer count. But do you know what still the basic unit of monetary worth is? We may say the dollar, but it's really the penny. And all of those add up. If we get to the place where in our actions and our words and our feelings, we begin to discard the small things as we discard now the pennies that come into our hands and pockets, then we will be missing the basic element of life. It's the small ways that we interact, the smile and the thank you and the considerate action, the gift of a few flowers, the telling someone how grateful you are, as most of you have done today. And I hope it will not be the last, as I hope it has not been the first time that your parents have heard this. It's the quick little hug or the show of affection or approval or condolence that you can give as people, as persons, that will show what kind of person you really are. Do you know what the #1 book in the New York Times book review section is under the how-to section? How many of you can tell me what that has been for the last 25 or 30 weeks? That's 10. No? Anybody know? It's entitled 50 Simple Things You Can Do to Save the Earth. Do you know what the second ranking book is? 50 Simple Things That Young People Can Do to Save the Earth. When we begin to look at the environmental problems around us, and we say they're so massive, I'll just live the way I please. then we are forgetting the basic fact that it's the small, little things. Like one of the points in that 50 ways is putting a plastic bottle filled with water in the water closet of your toilet and thereby saving water. In our part of the country, that's not too important, although it will increasingly become so. But in other parts of this country of ours, that's terribly important even today. What you can do, the little things you can do, the tiny things you can do, will make a difference in your life and in the world. I would like to simply close by adding my tribute to the graduates, to the parents especially, as well as their family and friends, to the teacher and staff, and to the key person for making sure all of this works, Ella Booth Gibson.
I made him say that so he could get some dinner tonight. I just have two announcements. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here on this very special, very beautiful day. We have been greatly blessed. These students are greatly blessed by all of the support and the care that all of you here have exhibited. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. The first announcement is that we have had this graduation videoed, and that if you want a copy of it, if you will call me on Monday, I can tell you how you can do that. And the last announcement, which is the one you're all been waiting for, I know, because you're all so hot and so patient, we are having some refreshments. You will need to go back that way and go into the first door on your right, and there is a table set up there for refreshments, and stay as long as you like. I didn't bring my bathing suit, and I don't think you did either, but let's enjoy each other's company. Thank you so much for coming.